That is what is remarkable about now the latest generation of these LLMs, that a single model is doing so well on a very, very broad range of problems.
When a human is interacting together with a machine, how does the UI UX work and the human gets value out of it? And what is the right product market fit for that, right? And that's where some of the innovation as an entrepreneur kind of have to do.
But I would say once you have a moat, it's not going to last for too long.
Yeah, so you have to constantly
you have to understand that the world is innovating at a very fast pace.
And we'll start right on time. So I'll just make a quick introduction about myself, about ACE, about Change Engine, and then we'll open the floor for discussion with Varun and Manish, which is what we are going to be talking about today on the topic, which is very, very relevant in these times. And personally, I'm looking forward to this session to learn a lot on this very, very hot trending topic of LLMs and AI. So we will have the majority of the time dedicated for that. But not before I talk about who am I and a bit of Change Engine. My name is Shailendra, and I've worked for multiple years, close to 15, 16 years now, mostly into product management as a product manager, heading products, different organizations such as Make My Trip Nearby, Magic Bricks, Max Life Insurance, Spinny, where my focus was mostly on creating products from 0 to 1, which is taking from a blank slate and creating products from that onwards. And now with Varun, I'm helping other other startup enthusiasts and entrepreneurs who want to do something on their own, who want to take up an idea and create an organization, who want to solve bigger, tougher problems of the society. We are providing them with a platform which is called as the Change Engine, which is ACE, which is like it's a 6-month fully funded acceleration program where we take early stage ideas. And I'll just mute this one. Yeah. And we take them from a very early stage, from 0 to 1, as I was saying, from an early idea stage all the way to go to market. In the process, identifying what is the right problem to be solved, how it has to be solved, and what is the right model to identify, and so on, and eventually helping them to raise fund. That is the exit. And we already are working with very smart entrepreneurs already. This is our first cohort, which is already live running, where we have people such as Bhavesh, Nikhil, who are from BITS Pilani, IIT Kanpur, and then we have Pavan and Rana Vivek, who are working on very different ideas. All 4 of them are working on 2 different organizations, which are AI based. And then we also have 3 entrepreneurs who are working on very, very different areas on non-profit focused areas largely. And I won't, all of these details are available on the website. So if you're interested, you can just go and read about that. This is what we give to all the entrepreneurs. We give some initial funding. At the same time, we follow a very regimented, strict procedure of taking them from an idea stage all the way to the product stage by following a process around it, and not just by arriving there by chance. And then we help them to connecting them to different people in the industry, such as finance, UI, UX, digital marketing, and so on. And of course, through this, they also learn from each other, which is what the intent of the program is. This is the founding team. I've spoken about myself. Varun, I will be talking about, and I think many of you would know him. Shubham is the third person who is helping us in leading the whole impact vertical. He is from IIT Delhi and is a co-founder of this company called Leap Club, and a Y Combinator candidate. And yes, we come to the main agenda, the main topic for today, for which we have both Manish and Varun coming in today, which is when we talk to a lot of organizations these days, talk to a lot of students also, because we go to a lot of different colleges and talk to people. A lot of them are building things in AI, and but they have a lot of fundamental questions around that. And what we thought was, if we can get two people who understand this area better and get them into conversation and ask some of the questions which are already asked by some of these entrepreneurs to us, present them. So that is what we are going to do today. So feel free, all of you, to also type in with your questions if you have. I will keep looking at the chat box, and if there is any relevant question which I am not going to ask, I'll put that to Varun or Manish. But let me get started by asking Manish first. And Manish, I think if many of you who may not know, is he's a director of Google at Google Research, and has worked extensively in the AI area and worked with companies like IBM, Xerox, in AI. You always think that it is limited to maybe only solving some structured queries and stuff, right? I was actually blown away, I'll tell you honestly, when I used to think that, at least I'm a poet. I write poetries and all. So I was like, at least this job is secure, right? Nobody will be able to write poetry. But when somebody showed me a poem and they said that, this has been written by by the robot, right? By bots. And I was like, I was not ready to believe that this can also happen. So, that whole paradigm shift, right, from more structured queries to now like LLMs, right? And so, how do you see this transition, and what all in your journey have you seen, and where do you see this going in the near future?
Yeah, so Shailendra, yeah, thanks for having me on this. So by the way, you're not alone to be surprised. Even the experts,
Yeah,
I think if you go back maybe 5 years back, most AI experts would not have predicted that yes, these generative AI technologies will become so powerful, because at that time, again, the expectation was a lot of the mundane kind of tasks will get automated by AI, but things like creativity and so on, it would remain uniquely human endeavors.
yeah,
So a lot of experts were surprised too. So back to your question. I mean, AI has gone through so many stages for those who have kind of who are either old enough, uh, like me, or who have looked at the history. Right, AI went through all these hype cycles, right, where there was a lot of hype early on about how it would solve all problems, to late 80s and early 90s, where in fact AI became a very bad word, uh, and and people wanted to avoid, right? Saying so even in early 2000s, I mean, yeah, we used to talk about it as data analytics. That yes, wherever you have interesting data about customers, users, and so on, how do you analyze that data to derive insights? So we barely were using the term AI because of that still that past history.
hmm,
And it was really, I mean, maybe around the year 2011 and 12, right? That deep learning made this comeback. Artificial neural networks, which again had been kind of one of these technologies that had been given up, that they just don't work. Uh, so already what we saw is in maybe at least the early part of the decade of the century, right? We had machine learning really take off as again more and more data became available in digital form, and as computational power exploded, you had machine learning take off. And around the year 2011 is when uh, artificial neural networks made a comeback in the form of deep learning. And initially, it was problems like vision, that object classification, that, yeah, I mean, suddenly there was that unheard of leap in terms of accuracy. But slowly, all of these problems like speech recognition, while we are talking, can you automatically understand the words? Machine translation, translating from one language to another.
yeah,
Uh, all of these problems, which had, again, decades of work that had been done based on now statistical machine learning and so on, suddenly you saw deep learning kind of start beating the traditional machine learning approaches in terms of accuracy. So that was, I would say, is maybe you can view as the first wave of deep learning.
Yeah.
It is kind of even surprising in hindsight that how such a basically a simple method, uh, essentially a very like a standard architecture, just took off, right? In terms of from a very vast variety of techniques, these deep learning based methods became the state of the art for all of these problems. But again, one problem still with these approaches was a for every new problem, you had to train a model from scratch. One, B, you needed a lot of label data to train these models because typically you were using supervised learning. And so what we saw again around the year 2000, maybe 5 years ago, with the advent of these foundation models. I mean, at that time, we weren't even using the term foundation models, but models like BERT, where as you started analyzing large volumes of unlabeled data, you started using self-supervised learning techniques, where you masked out certain words and got the models to predict those missing words. So there was no need to label those missing words. And you saw that these models were again achieving unheard of performance. So again, what you saw was for now problems like natural language processing. Within natural language processing, you had different kinds of tasks. Let's say sentiment analysis, question answering, summarization. You used to have different models, right? For again, different deep learning based models for each of these. Suddenly, you started finding that a common model started giving you better results than trained models, custom trained models, right? For many of these problems. And that is what is remarkable about now the latest generation of these LLMs, that a single model is doing so well on a very, very broad range of problems, and with zero shot or few shot, which is, I mean, you haven't even trained the models specifically with that data. Just with a few prompts, these models are able to do so well. So I would say, I mean, it is kind of surprising, right? And all of these models are currently based on this, essentially that attention, the transformer based model, uh, drawing ideas right from. So architecturally, there's so much kind of, I guess we have converged to such a small set of these architectures, pretty much driving such a vast range of applications. This is quite surprising. But to me, this also suggests, hopefully, an opportunity to innovate for the future, because I doubt that we have arrived at the architecture, right, that would really solve our problems for the future. So later we can talk about, again, so many problems that still
Right.
remain with these LLMs, so many outstanding fundamental problems
Right.
which still need to be tackled.
Thanks, Manish. So, carrying on from where you left, I think I want to ask Varun. Varun, you yourself have you started. You actually did your masters in artificial intelligence, machine learning way back when I think AI ML was not probably as talked about, right? Words 2005 7, and then you built your own organization, which is Aspiring Minds, and then now acquired by SHL. And this was also, AI was like the backbone of that organization as well, and you used a lot of AI in that organization also. You, as an both as a researcher as well as an entrepreneur, uh, a how do you see this whole transition? And more, I want you to focus on what do you think going forward might happen, and from an entrepreneur perspective, what are the opportunities which lie ahead? And if somebody is sitting in a college in the final year is thinking about doing something, which are the potential areas which you think can be leveraged now, which was not even thought of maybe 5 years ago, as Manish was saying?
Yeah, no, thanks, Shilendra, for having me, and also thanks, Manish, for being here. I've known Manish personally for many, many years, and one of the very few people who were doing machine learning and AI early in India, right? So I learned a lot from him and his group at Xerox. was publishing these great international papers, and doing video analysis much before people were talking about it. So, just wanted to make sure the audience understand that you are hearing from someone who's really done such kind of work, AI work himself, and his team, and knows it deeply than many people today who are so-called AI experts, but have only seen it from a lot of distance. So thanks, Manish, for being here and doing this. So no, I think Manish has covered it quite well. I can say talk a little bit from an entrepreneur's lens, right, and an application lens, right. So when you're an entrepreneur, most of the time you are thinking of that given the current state of technology, what is possible and how I can harness in creating value for users and customers, right? And as Manish was saying, if you look at early 90s, the excitement was that, oh, you can now do handwriting recognition, right? And again, which Manish mentioned, do data analytics. And that's what these algorithms were good for. And if you talk to startups in the 90s, they would be thinking that, how you can now leverage to bring efficiency to variety of problems, which the technology is right now there to solve, right? And there would be some who would be even sharper, stronger, more ambitious, who would say, "Hey, can we improve the state of art to solve problems which probably the academics have not thought about right now, or is not in open literature." But most 80% entrepreneurs would be thinking about how do you leverage technology which is there to be able to give enough value to the customer to be able to pay you dollars, but also get productivity gains, right? And as we went to early 2000s, the neural network, as Manish was saying, became a bad word because whatever neural network could do, other techniques could do, which were statistically more explainable and mathematically more solid, right? And then some more problems were solved, like you could do speaker-dependent speech recognition, right? Which is something which we use in our product Swar, which was to automatically evaluate quality of speech. So if someone speaks to an app, it could automatically say that what is the quality of pronunciation fluency for this person, and there's something which could do with speaker-dependent speech recognition, right? And this was the era before deep neural networks came, and for some time after that as well, where a lot of effort was being done on something called feature engineering, right? So you would understand a problem very well and say, okay, I want to grade essays or I want to grade grammar, or as we did in some of our work, we have to grade a computer program. And we say, okay, how do you would handwrite features, which Manish is now saying is all automated. Some network does it magically, and it does it magically for a wide range of problems, right? Which was quite unheard of at that point of time. But a lot of our effort was that, look, how can we bring machine learning to new application areas by doing great feature engineering? And then we would do your own data collection, your own data labeling, and so on, and build these models and test them. And if you get the accuracy, you kind of roll them out, right? So it was a lot of feature engineering, labeling, and by the way, at that time, though everyone was talking big data, as far as machine learning was concerned, you really didn't need a lot of big data because most of the algorithms didn't scale. The efficiency used to taper off. Even if you put more labeled points, really you would not get the marginal gains will be very, very less. And now with deep learning in 2012, first with vision, and then now with natural language, it's disrupted quite a bit. That, as Manish was again saying, that there's one model which can do a lot of good things. I think fundamentally, what has not changed is that when you have to put it on an application area, you have to understand your application area very, very well, and then see how to apply this technology to that application area, right? And that's what entrepreneurs have to do, right? So, and I think Manish will talk about it later. That LLMs can do is a great technology, but how do you use it for different kinds of tasks and make sure it works well for those tasks, delivers value, has the guardrails, and so on? I think that's what entrepreneurs have to think about. So it's unlocked a lot of new applications which we couldn't kind of solve before. Like Shalindra, you were saying writing a poem, right? But how do you create a technology which is reliable, which solves the customer problem, and which you can trust in business processes or for consumers is the question to answer. And that is still linked with understanding your customer very, very well and understanding your problem very, very well on and building solutions based on these technologies which are out there.
So any particular area, both Manish and Varun, which you think are now very ripe in terms of getting innovated and struck through from an entrepreneur lens? Because a lot of entrepreneurs also in the audience right now. Is there any area which you think is just due for huge innovation, depending upon how we are seeing the rise of LLMs and the power of AI?
And so I would say several areas. I mean, a lot of things around. So even starting with things like coding,
Okay.
we are going to see a dramatic shift, right? Uh, in terms of productivity for people being able to now solve problems, and LLMs giving you a fairly good starting point, right, for the code you need to write for a
Hmm.
given problem.
Hmm.
Uh, so I think this whole notion of whatever uh, an assistant, a virtual assistant, right? AI becoming a virtual assistant to a human
Hmm.
in in the kind of tasks, right, that you yourself were mentioning were considered uniquely human endeavors. So things like coding, things like various tasks related to creativity. You're trying to create a marketing campaign. Your business. You're trying to create an whatever advertisers, right, for your users. You're trying to so or you're writing up documents. You're uh, writing up emails, communications, and so on. So a lot of these tasks, again, I think related to creativity, but not just that. Even, I mean, this generation is just one aspect, even for analysis. So these generative AI technologies are also extremely good at analyzing information. So if you need to answer questions, so let's say knowledge, even in terms of serving, organizing knowledge and providing right knowledge seeking kind of responses to knowledge seeking queries. Again, you're going to see tremendous, uh, I would say, transformation, right, of all of those. And I would, and what Varun was pointing to, even as you now start looking at specific, let's say, user problems, let's say you're looking at healthcare problems, medical imaging, and so on, what is happening is you increasingly can utilize these foundation models to now provide you a much better starting point for tackling many of these problems than simply what was traditionally viewed as this big barrier that for that you'll have to custom build a new model. And to build that new model, you will need millions of labeled, let's say, medical images and so on. You're again uh, getting away from uh, freeing yourself, right? So from some of those requirements. So certain problems that previously might have been considered almost infeasible to solve, you are now again within striking range of being able to come up with effective solutions. So Varun, you may want to add.
Sure, no, Manish, thanks. No, I agree. I think it's disrupting everything, right? And there are these variety of areas. And as Manish is saying, I think one very natural thing is that they can become an assistant in everything, right? And what you really need to see is again that uh, when a human is interacting together with a machine, how does the UI UX work and the human gets value out of it, and what is the right product market fit for that, right? And that's where some of the innovation as an entrepreneur kind of has to do. And I'll just come back to the second point Manish was making. I think one more lens to see the at the question, Shalendra, you are asking is that uh, they can be machine learning or AI companies at different levels. One can be at the algorithms level, right? You're building models, open libraries of models, or selling data and so on, right? That's the model building kind of one, which is for really hardcore kind of ML folks, right? And some because some of it has been democratized, it's also become more harder, and the techniques also need a lot of compute. But that's one area, and you see a lot of the US veering towards that, right? Which is the model building. The second aspect is your what we call as ML ops, right? Which is to make sure all these tools to make sure your models continue to work well, they are reliable, the data flows, and so on and so forth. And I think a lot of new opportunities are going to open up in that layer as well. A little easier than your hardcore model development is the second area of MLOps. And there, that was one comment I wanted to make was as Manish was saying that, it's become much easier to leverage these foundational models for a new application area, right? The risk with that is that there's been this sudden democratization, right, where anyone can now build a model. And the risk is that, look, you'll make models which are shabby or which you have not tested properly, right? And when they go for applications like healthcare, right, or the industry I was in, which is making decisions on people, they can be extremely, extremely, extremely hurtful. Right. So this democratization has this negative effect that anyone now can, build a model. And this was, by the way, happening earlier also. 5 years back also, this was happening that people, I mean, there were people who told me that they're presenting a model and then they had made it on 30 points, right? And it was like, really 30 points? What was your tail set and what was your test set? Kind of thing. Today, I can understand if someone says we made it on 30 points, but I think the onus of testing these models has increased now because it's become so easy to do it. And um, someone who's closer to understanding the theory of machine learning, because you are now using these general models and tuning in with fewer points, right? You need to test them even more because, in some sense, your variance of the model can be higher, whereas your bias is low. So I think that piece in envelope also is very, very interesting to look at. How do you give reliable models per se at scale? And then the third is which it goes to direct application, right? You are using these models to solve business problems, and it's a great leverage point that it's become so easy to do it. But remember that based on the kind of application you are using, you need to be really testing them well, right? So if it's healthcare or and the thing is that even honestly, the regulator has no clue, right? So there are all these regulators who would do FDA, give you medical licensing and all, but they don't know. But today, it's not clear that what is the bar. So the onus comes on the entrepreneur to be able to use these kind of reliably. So just to add on to what Manish said, probably people can look at these three different aspects of kind of problems they can solve with ML models, data. So like there are companies which are in artificial data generation, right? Which is also a one thing in the pipeline of ML models, right? So then the second is ML ops, and the third is applying it to problems.
Thanks. So while both of you were talking, and I was thinking that, and Manish used this word barrier, and you said that democratizing things. So as with many things, there is an advantage, and the same thing becomes the disadvantage also, right? So if I look at it as an entrepreneur, I see that there is a vast opportunity. So like there is nothing called a sacrosanct. Like I can challenge the who's who of the world also because now there is no as such barrier, and I have a lot of power in that sense. But that term which is used in the startup parlance is moat, right? So what is the moat which you have? So now suddenly it seems that none of the organizations have any moat. And it is a good thing and a bad thing because it will just democratize things and make it a level playing field. But also from an entrepreneur perspective, who is starting off, how does he or she think about it? Like, how does he or she protect or create guardrails or boundaries to protect his or her own startup idea, right? So, do you think that we are entering into a world where literally there is no moat for organizations, or how do you think about that, Manish?
I mean, I would say, look, I mean, a deep building upon what Varun said, a deep understanding of your users, your customers' problems,
Hmm.
that focus and constantly innovating, that can be, in a way, right, give you that
Yeah.
mode.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say is there are still fundamentally unsolved problems with LLMs. I mean, even though they are just remarkably so powerful. I mean, we are living in this very weird world. But on one hand, we have all of these technologies that are so powerful and so impressive at tackling certain problems, and yet there are fundamental chinks in the armor. Uh, like one, I would say, for those, let's say, entrepreneurs who are targeting various enterprise customers, if you want to, let's say, provide customer service for your enterprise, uh, I mean, you have to adhere to truth, right? And LLMs are known to just hallucinate. Uh, if you utilize LLMs, they will make up
Hmm.
facts, and which no enterprise can afford, right? Enterprises cannot afford to whatever answer customer queries
Yeah.
about their products and so on, where LLM is just hallucinating,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I would say this is still an unsolved problem. Nobody has solved it yet. Yes, people have various degrees that yes, we are able to control hallucination to such a strong extent. And yes, theoretically, we know about approaches, uh, more fundamental approaches, where instead of encoding all this world knowledge in the weights of these large models, you uh, get all of that knowledge, you force these large models to simply retrieve information from an external memory source. So do an indexing into the memory, right? So like there's this famous saying, all problems in computer science can be solved with an extra layer of indirection. So instead of encoding that knowledge directly in your model, you force the model to simply uh, provide an index into and memory from which you source that information. So yes, but these approaches still have not been shown to work, right, at the kind of scale that these LLMs are achieving. So there are, even if you're tackling, let's say, a real world enterprise problem, there are these problems that need to be tackled. B, there are a lot of other challenges. So, I mean, you could even create a startup today, right, with a better way of building these models, right, which has which is far more cost efficient, right? Because all of these models now with hundreds of billions and now trillions of parameters, they are often hundreds of times or thousands of times more expensive to run. So, how do you again achieve computational efficiency? Then there are other problems like uh, safety, bias, and so on, right? In these models, wherever you're making decisions that affect human lives, you cannot afford. And regulators are beginning to start insisting
Yeah.
that, look, you cannot uh, have these models uh, that show that bias against certain, let's say, sections of the community and so on. So there's even kind of, I guess, companies to create where you come up with solutions to some of these fundamental problems that still remain. And of course, even to apply them in real world setting, uh, a lot of these problems need to be overcome. So if you're truly overcoming these problems with innovative methods, that can be part of your moat.
Got it. So basically, your understanding of the customer and your understanding of the context in which you are operating, and how deep, how well you understand that can definitely be your mode. Technology can be a leveler because everybody will probably have the same access to technology. But
But I would say once you have a moat, it's not going to last for too long.
yeah, so you have to
You
constantly
have
work.
to understand that the world is innovating at a very fast pace.
Yeah.
So you cannot say, "Oh, I have this moat now; I can
Right.
take it easy,
Yeah.
right, and
Which was
rest on my
probably there
laurels and so on."
20
Right?
years. Yeah.
You have to constantly innovate because otherwise, yes, that moat exists today; it will disappear tomorrow.
Right. Varun, do you want to add something?
Yeah, no, I think not a lot because I think Manish has said it all. I think customer understanding is the moat. I just always tell people that the way to understand it is that deep tech of today is not deep tech tomorrow, right? So whatever where a new technology comes, it is with few, but that moat breaks, right? And you can ask this question for any company, right? Like, what is the moat of Amazon? I mean, there's not a technology moat which Amazon has, right? Or what is the moat of any company, right? Other than a few which are based on very, very high tech products, like you building a rocket. Right? The moat is understanding of customer, and as Manish was saying, being iterative, right? That you understand your customer so well and you have solved it for your customer so well that the customer will always stick to you, right? And that's like what companies like Amazon has been able to. I never switch off from Amazon, even if someone else comes, right? Because their UI, UX experience works perfectly.
Yeah.
Uh,
And the delivery, the overall operations. Yeah.
experience, right? And I think that's the mode of being able to understand your customer and being iterative. See, every time you build a product, you think I have solved it, right? But you spend 3 months more on it, you make it better, and you make it better, and you make it better. And that unique customer insight, which you comes by more and more users using your product, and you continually improving your product based on that customer insights, will take you so far with your users that no one will be able to then catch up very quickly to come there. And then, as Manish was saying, there'll also be technology disruption. So you have to be also quick to kind of make sure that these, and that's where sometimes the innovator's dilemma comes, right? Because there could be a technology disruption which is hurting your business model,
Right.
and then you are worried that whether I should move or not move, but you have to move because someone else from the
Somebody else
market will anyway
Yeah.
kind of move, right? And I think the second aspect, as Manish was saying, that there's a lot of very interesting problems also with LLMs and the technology, and a lot of opportunities out there. I'm like surprised that how very simple things LLMs can't understand, while they can do these really complicated stuff. Like an example where you say, okay, only complete the sentence and only put one word in between these two words. I will keep putting two words. Right? And you keep telling it again, and no, I don't want two words. I want you to only insert one word, two, and it just won't get it, right? So they work very very strangely. Um, from And I think there are a lot of opportunities both from compute point of view, as Manish said, and tuning it for your particular application. Look, I think one thing which has caught the imagination of a lot of people is Chat GPT, right?
Mm.
And as Manish would tell you, that the AI behind it is an AI which everyone has, right? And probably much of it was invented in Google with the architecture and so on and so forth. But there's a huge layer of engineering which OpenAI was able to do to get there. So in any of these products, the core is AI is a part of it, but to make it really work for your application area, there's a lot of massaging, engineering, etc., engineering hacks, series of micro engineering hacks, which takes it to kind of work for use case, right? And those are all that all create your mode. But I mean, my principle is that to the people who say there's no mode, there was never any mode, and there is no mode even today. If you see it from a technology point of view, barring a very very few things, and then you're created by customer understanding and product understanding.
Yeah, got it. So, recently, and you spoke about ChatGPT. Recently, when they launched their latest ChatGPT 4 Turbo, and I was on Twitter the next day, and I saw that the multiple startups which have just folded because now ChatGPT 4 Turbo have offered those offerings for free, right? And so my question is, and in fact, in our cohort also, one of the members was trying to create something like a product page using AI. So you just click a picture of a product, and that product page, if you have to upload on Amazon or any other e-commerce, that page will be 80% generated just by the picture. And good that he flipped and he switched to a different idea, because now Amazon itself is offering that as a feature to all its sellers, right, for free. So the question is that how do you, even as an entrepreneur, when you're evaluating different ideas, there is always this risk that one of these bigger organizations, and because they have greater technology power and bandwidth, they will come up with something in their next release, and their entire idea will be such wiped off. Will there ever be a possibility that the single LLM is also solving multiple of these issues and stuff, or will there always be finer nuances and niches, if I can say? So, any advice to the entrepreneurs
Yeah.
on?
So my view is there will always be, and again, it's consistent with what Varun was also saying. So I think, yeah, what you have to avoid is just put a wrapper or a very thin layer uh, around, let's say, some impressive capability,
Hmm.
and kind of pretend, right, that okay, now you have this unique differentiator and so on. That is not going to work, right? So I think again you have to go back to the basics. uh, the good news is the large companies, right, like Google, Amazon, and so on, right? They have their own kind of large businesses, right? They're not focused on that specific maybe customer problem, right? That you as an entrepreneur, so you have to have that turn that focus to your advantage. So look at a particular problem that isn't just easily solved by a simple wrapper, right? Around, let's say, this LLM or any kind of large AI model and so on, which requires those non-trivial uh, kind of work, right? To tackle that problem, go and then solve that problem, right? Come up with that solution. And then, as Varun was saying, right, iterate. You start serving kind of bigger class of customers, you start tackling their problems better and so on. And as you iterate, right, this is how you keep making your solution better. So you have to start with something which is, again, significantly better, right, than what the current state of the art gives you, just because kind of, oh, you thought of a new problem, right, that this LLM could solve. Uh, and just with a simple wrapper, yeah, that's not going to give you a differentiation that will be that will last too long.
Got it. Understood.
No, on the same page, right? I think two quick take backs from what Manish is saying is, to summarize it, is one, that there needs to be some deep work based on the technology. It can't just be a wrapper, right? By problem understanding and making it right. And sometimes you do that deep work, but the incremental value which you create, the customer doesn't need it. He or she is already happy with the basic value he's getting, right? So you have to make sure that the additional, the marginal value which you are able to produce, that takes it from non-usable to usable for the customer, right? And only if that will happen, they will be interested in switch to your product. And I think the second point is, which again, when you're saying that these big techs are these huge businesses, right? And they like to work on broad problems where they can have millions of customers and use cases. So the trick for the entrepreneur is to find more narrow areas of application, but which have a large enough market size, right? So that dual kind of thing. But I mean, I've had entrepreneurs who have come and told me in the last 10 years, Array, we are improving speech recognition. And I said, look, guys, you're wasting your time, right? I mean, because all these companies would eventually improve speech recognition, and you might have some advantage that you have Indian data which they don't have, but they will, if they see India as a market, they will collect that data. So don't work on speech recognition, right? Rather use see speech recognition as a technology which is available, and what downstream value you can create with your customer using that technology, right? Adding more layers on it, let's say of intelligence and so on, and then build a kind of solution. So don't I mean, people just get excited about this little value they can create on
Yeah.
broad problems and say, hey, we can do now better than Google AI speech recognition, right? But Google AI speech recognition will be anyway better than you in 6 to 12 months in 99% cases. I mean, if you are not a genius. But
Understood. Thank you, Varun. So we have around 15 minutes left. I'll open it up for questions also. If there are people who want to ask anything, they can raise your hand, or they can just type in, while I will push in one last question from my side while people are either typing in or thinking of a question, is on artificial general intelligence, which is what people have been thinking about, dreading for also, that are we reaching a time or a place where machines are now at least reaching that realm where they can start thinking like humans, right? I wouldn't even have asked this question maybe 1 year back or 2 years back, but now that the kind of responses which we start getting, and the kind of like, for example, I saw like multiple examples, right? Somebody had composed music, and it seemed like somebody somebody very gifted can only compose that kind of music, right? And the voice quality, like they use some Muhammad Rafi's voice and they created this song, and like this is surreal. So are we? Is it? Do we need to worry, or are we reaching that stage where artificial general intelligence is also becoming a reality?
Yeah, so I can start with my view.
Yeah.
So I'll use this quote from William Gibson, right? The future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed.
Okay.
So my view is artificial general intelligence is already here, right? It's just quite imperfect. So it's not still at a level where it will reliably do things, right, that a human being would. And we earlier talked about all kinds of issues, right, that you have, factuality, all of these other issues, biases, and so on. But I think we already have artificial general intelligence because these models, right, are not just providing this very specific narrow capability, they're providing a very broad set of capabilities, which was really the notion of artificial general intelligence. Yes, if you are talking about superhuman intelligence and so on, right, what's the point, right, at which uh, machines become so much smarter? I would again say for many, many problems, they are already, and
Already.
in fact, they have been, right? I mean, if you go back to even the Deep Blue machine that beat Gary
Very
Kasparov, and
Castro.
soon, right, chess uh, machines became so much better at playing chess, right, that even the best of humans. So yes, there and that range of problems, yes, it's continuing to grow. So I think we are already in that world of AGI.
Varun?
Yeah, no, I think it's a very interesting question. It depends on how you define AGI. And I think what Manish was saying, I totally agree to that piece that I think till a very long time, till very recently, we believed in computer science that if an algorithm is going to do solve all problems, it will solve all problems badly, right? And there was this famous paper which was called the no free lunch theorem paper, right? And I think that has definitely been defined, right? And so, for one major change in AI is that from being good at narrow tasks, it's now good at broad tasks, right? And from that point of view, definitely we have made substantial progress. I think the uh, two more quick comments, right? And I'm not directly answering the question, but fiddling around it was that, look, I mean, when people say, hey, AI is better than humans on a problem, computers were better than humans on a lot of problems even before Deep Blue, right? Like 10-digit multiplication, right? Computers did it better
Yeah.
than humans could do, right? So I think one needs to see it in some context. There's always been problems for very, very long time since computation started happening, where machines were better, like a steam engine was better than humans in pushing stuff around, right? Or running a train, right? I mean, how many humans will be needed to push a train at the same speed as a steam engine does, right? So I think one should not, loosely use these notions of being better than humans, right? And third point I would just make is that, so Rodney Brooks wrote this paper very long back, which was like elephants don't play chess, right? And what he was trying to say is that sometimes we look at intelligence as a very monolithic thing, that playing chess is being intelligent. And he was writing because in the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of crazy frenziness on making computers which are better at playing chess. He's like that, look, I mean, what elephants can do, computers still can't do. And that's in some sense way less complicated than playing chess. So I think if you look at the human capability in its fullness, right, it's natural language is one part of it, video is one part of it, but a lot of it is in the instantiated world and the physical mechanical world which we are. And there also there's been unbeaten kind of surprisingly better robots, right? Like I remember when I was at MIT, those robots were only useful for demos. Like they could really do nothing of any value to anyone in an unstructured environment. They could do well in factories, but nothing beyond that. And but now they can. But I think you have to see, when you see AGI, and as we define it, you have to see it in a multimodal way, right? As to human capabilities is, from walking to doing to manipulation, using multimodal capabilities together and so on and so forth. And by the way, again, LMs have shown about, promise in doing that. So I think that would be the next frontier. Of course, one frontier is how we solve these LLM problems. And some people also believe that maybe, so as Manish was saying, neural networks was a bad word for 20 years, right? So there was this joke that if you have neural network in a paper title before 2012, it will not get accepted in any conference. right? And now, if you don't have a neural network in the title of your paper or deep learning or one of these words, probably you cannot get accepted. Maybe there's another change which will come, right? And there'll be a set of techniques which are more parsimonious, better mimicking how human brain works, and so on. So it's all a wait and watch.
Yeah, I'll
Thing.
just add one thing that, and also I think we, instead of just thinking of it as human versus I think we have to much more think about human plus AI, right?
So,
And that's where I think as AI becomes more and more powerful, the way it can really augment and help us become far more creative, far more productive. And I would say even things like science. What I'm truly excited about is now these powerful AI models can truly help us accelerate scientific discovery. We've seen some early glimpses, right, through the work, for instance, uh, on this protein folding problem uh, by AlphaFold. Uh, I mean, what used to take it used to take an entire PhD, typically 5 years, to come up with, again, figure out the structure of a previously, let's say, a protein whose structure was previously unknown. It's done equivalent now. It's kind of provided a solution which is estimated to be extremely accurate for 200 million, all known proteins. Uh, so again, I mean, think about how, so it's done this work equivalent to 200 billion PhD, a billion PhD years. Uh, so, so as we start to apply, and we are beginning to see AI being applied for discovering materials, drugs, uh, so as we begin to see AI being applied for scientific discovery, that's something that truly excites me. What can we accomplish with
Got
the
it.
power of AI?
Yeah. So we have quite a few questions which are also coming in. So I will actually let, instead of reading the question, if you can talk, Sai Baba, if you want to speak.
Yeah, so generally, so a little bit about me. So generally, I'm building a platform in no-code algo trading with AI assisted, of course, and using a domain-specific language on top of it. So it is easy for AI to generate the code or read the code or generate a strategy based on that. So generally, right, our platform is intended on to say that like an idea will actually win. Let's say Warren Buffett saying few years back that everybody is going to buy Coca-Cola, which is sugar water offered for 10 rupees. So similarly, right now, right, insurance industry is going. I'm going to bet on insurance providers. So investing directly with the help of the AI in multiple stocks and offering that portfolio rebalancing as well. These kinds of stuff. So generally, right now, right, I have few questions based on this AI ecosystem. Generally, right now, right, there are so many specialized companies that are coming, DeepGram when it comes to speech or Runway when it comes to images. So, but there are also platforms that are coming like Cerebrus or some other elemental cognition AI, which will give the factual explanation to LLMs generated as. So, like generally, right, there are only few cloud providers, right? GCP, Azure, and some other AWS. So, generally, right, how to bet on one kind of ecosystem that like feel like this will actually suffice to help us keep, I mean, competitive enough in the future that like even the new AI models comes.
uh, Surendra, should we collect a few questions and then answer them
Yeah.
because we are running out of time,
Sure.
and then maybe Manish can take what he wants to take,
Yeah.
and then I can take the
So
next one.
Arman, do you want to put your question?
Yeah, hi. Hello, sirs. Thank you. Thank you for the talk. So, I have a question very specific to entrepreneurship. Uh, so as a fresh entrepreneur passing out from college, have very little experience in this startup world. So for example, I'm very much interested in healthcare and all those stuffs. And like Manish sir and Varun sir said that healthcare still requires a lot of R&D before taking into any products to the customer, before taking with that. So as a fresh entrepreneur, how do you make a balance between creating a focusing on creating a business out of it, or you just need to constantly innovate so that, for example, the compute or the optimization, or do you require OpenAI APIs, or do you require foundation models? So, how do you make the decision process to just entering into this field? Taking example of healthcare. Yeah, that's my
Okay.
question.
I'll take one more question and then we'll ask these. Aditya.
Yeah. Hello, guys. I'm a UX designer. I've been in the industry for like past 2 years, and recently I gained interest into entrepreneurship. I just had this one question. I just wanted to know how we can leverage AI so that we can understand human emotions better. Or is AI at the stage as of current day and age? Is it capable to understand human emotions and possibly we can take leverage of it and deliver something impactful out of it? Let's say giving therapy through AI. And right now, AI is very much capable of making synthetic speech and making it sound really real. But can it understand human emotions in a way that it can reciprocate positively, uh, landing a positive impact on a person?
Got it. Okay, so maybe I have noted down the three questions. Maybe we'll take in that order. First, I think the question was around having these multiple ecosystems. So, do you need to bet on one, or what is the? Do you need to have a
Yeah.
portfolio view?
Yeah, yeah.
So there I would say, yeah, I mean, ultimately you have to define your strategy. If that, are you going to be primarily a user, right, of that, let's say, the underlying AI model, and you're going to focus more on that customer problem and kind of, and that delta, right, between that powerful AI model and solving that problem. So there I would say the good news is that a lot of the fundamental kind of interfaces and so on, right? You're increasingly beginning to use language as an interface for a lot of these kind of capabilities. Language, image, as these models become also multimodal. Later on, you'll see voice emerging as another interface. So I would say the good news is that you are likely to have then choice down the road amongst multiple providers, uh, and you can continue to focus maybe on your that delta, right, between that model and that customer problem. And again, I mean, ultimately it's a business call, right, that you make in terms of how much you bet on kind of the deep integration with a specific cloud provider's APIs and technology versus trying to keep it uh, general. But a lot of the technology trends are enabling you to, yes, keep it at a high level where you would be able to switch providers. The second problem, I think, about entrepreneur, maybe Varun is better qualified. I mean, I have my views, but I
Yeah,
suspect
that
Varun
I will
will.
ask Varun, but maybe the third one, which is around human emotions. So,
Yeah. So human emotions, I would say, again say there's a lot of work going on right now. So for instance, even within my team, that traditionally, for instance, for automatic speech recognition, right? We have we have thrown away everything about the speech except for the text, except for the words that were spoken. So a lot of my researchers in my own team have been working on how do you now also represent all of this paralinguistics, right? All of this additional stuff, prosody, emotion, and so on, uh, that's captured in that rich speech signal beyond just the words, right, that were spoken. And then and then there are, given, let's say, a text, right, how do you render it in voice, right, in a natural sounding manner, as you are dubbing from one uh, language to another, a video, how do you carry over that prosody, that style, right, in that other language, and so on. So I would say, yes, there is a lot of work now being done on AI models that can at least better represent human emotion, and then also allow you to better express things in a given style, in a particular conforming, right, to a particular, expressing a particular form of emotion.
got it. And the second question, Varun, was between the trade-off between R&D and starting early. Uh, so especially in
Yeah,
hardware and healthcare kind of industries, it's even more difficult.
sure. See, I think my view on that is, and we are having to do that with one of our cohort members right now, is that your first focus as an entrepreneur needs to be to get an MVP, which is above the line, right? And which people can use and start getting more than incremental value, right? They say, hey, we want to use this. I think the first bar is that you create that product. And there you can use tools which are available, join them together and so on and so forth. but create a technology which has not existed before and which users want to use, and do that feedback loop with users to make sure that they are able to get good value out of it. They are ready to use it, continue to use it beyond using it for 15 days. A lot of things just taper off, right? People love the product for 15 days and then they just stop using it, right? A lot of it used to happen with data analytics companies, that you show them these beautiful tables and graphs and so on. Hey, oh, we want this data. And after 30 days, no one looks at that table ever again because they don't know what to do of that data. It looks very pretty, right? So I think creating a product which can have sustained usage and is above the line is the first step. And then you spirally keep improving it, right? So both from a point of view of your backend efficiencies, if you, the build versus buy kind of question, that look, I need to replace this with something I have to do internally, or creating more value for the customer, or solving some of the research problems. But again, it has to be a quite linked to that prioritization is very, very important for an entrepreneur continuously to do. So I think that's what my answer is. And just one comment on the last one. The way the question was framed was that, do machines understand emotions so that we can, they can reply back? I think one thing we need to appreciate in the time of generative AI is that the question is not whether they can understand or not, because most of the times we don't know what they are understanding or not understanding. The question is that can they respond in a way which is useful, right? So we really don't understand what LLMs understand and don't understand, and that's the whole magic, right? That they're able to provide something out which is useful, which kind of seems to solve the problem, right? So keep that in mind, because when you come to understanding of emotions, then psychologists can get under. I mean, it's very hard to even define what an emotion is, and we can understand it well or not.
Yeah, I think we've already run out of time, but maybe Abhijit has been trying to ask one thing. We'll take this last question, and yeah, Abhijit.
Thank you guys for this wonderful talk. So my question is that how exactly do you see the regulations to pan out? As in, there are a lot of deep fake videos. There are a lot of, as in, objectionable content, which will obviously keep on increasing as we go. So how do you see the regulation, probably from the public authorities, probably from the platform side, and how things, because on internet it's practically impossible to 100% stop things, 100% stop content, right?
Yeah, so I think in things like, again, as you start creating, for instance, using generative AI, right, to create new content, I believe, again, there will need to be that regulation where you're very clearly marking that content in some form, right? That tells you that it has been created using or morphed using AI. So already you're beginning to see these kind of watermarks and so on, right, being provided for instance, images that are being generated through these text-to-image models and so on. So I think we are definitely likely to see those kinds of regulations, and then like heavy penalties, right? When you then start. So the other point is, I think regulation, in my view, again, has to be based on the usage, not on fundamental technologies. That we shouldn't be trying to regulate technology, saying, oh, this technology cannot be used, or this technology can be used, and so on. I think ultimately regulation will have to be around usage. So when you're kind of, again, using things in a manner, right, that is harming individuals and so on, again, which many of these deep fakes and so on, right? If you are using them in the context of harming those individuals, yes, there ought to be regulation that kind of lead to severe penalties, right, against those kind of use cases. At the same time, I mean, if I myself, right, kind of give permission and say, look, I want, I mean, let's say there was that famous Shah Rukh Khan ad, right, with Cadbury's, where Shah Rukh Khan himself gave that authorization and said, okay, please create various versions, right, of me promoting different businesses and so on. That usage was fine, right, because it was in a very specific, with very specific consents, right, and kind of with very specific use cases that made sense.
Okay. Varun, there is one question. Sorry, I'm taking one more because there are a lot of people who are asking, but I think you can answer this, that any advice for current undergrad students who are involved in ML research and entrepreneurship? to pursue and learn about the state of art models and work on creating value problem solving?
Look, I think to undergrads, my advice always is to find a unique problem where they can apply some of these tools, which is a unique use case, and and people have not worked on that use case, and see how AI can solve that problem, right? And can you do all the uh, testing of the AI model for that problem, build the engineering around it, and so on and so forth, right? We are generally, I mean, again, there are geniuses everywhere. We are not generally expecting from undergrad to improve models and so on. But more, I mean, the problem with undergrads is like, and so this is very funny, right? Like 20 years back, everyone's project was building a library management system when we were asking them to do coding, right? And then in AI, the project became handwriting recognition kind of thing, right? So every resume you see handwriting recognition, right? So I think the innovation we are seeing is that can you see a problem in your ecosystem? Right. And I mean, my own, interestingly, I wanted to solve the timetabling problem when I was an undergrad. I don't know why I got that idea, that how do you automatically build a timetable with faculty members and subjects and so on. And that led me to something called genetic algorithms, which was being used. But the point was that, no one was thinking as an undergrad as timetable to build timetabling. And I think that was the interesting kind of piece. So what I would the first step could be that you take a Kaggle data set or something and run it just to get your hands dirty, right, on some given data set. But that is just the beginning point. That's like step one, right? What we are really looking for is that can you apply it to a unique problem and show what were your learnings and were you able to stabilize and give good results for that unique problem, right? So I think that's what my advice would be.
I think we have really overshot the time. A lot of questions still, but I don't think we will able to take more because it's already close to 10 minutes over time. But I really appreciate all of you joining in, and I think I learned a lot in this session. My key takeaways here will be that um, first, it is providing a level playing field for a lot of budding entrepreneurs. So it opens up a lot of gates which were largely inaccessible earlier. But at the same time, you have to your understanding of the customer, your understanding of the context remains paramount. So technology is only going to enable and help you, but you have to constantly, and the cycle now increases faster, that your ability to renovate, iterate faster uh, will be even more, the onus will be even more on entrepreneurs to do that. And third, I think, as I think Manish, you were saying, we have to be using this with human beings and not against human beings. So I think probably I will have to start using chat gpt for my poems also, and maybe not compete with that. And thank you so much, guys, all of you. I think we will share the recording of this session also on YouTube pretty soon. And looking at the kind of questions and demand, I think probably we'll need to do another session on AI. And thank you so much, all of you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.